watch these entire playoffs play out and you see the two teams that are left standing, again, Philly's dominance in the trenches on both sides. They can run the football so well, but they got weapons on the outside too. One of the best duos in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. On the defensive side, 70 sacks to lead the league. Then you look at Kansas City, obviously that passing attack. Mahomes and Kelsey are as good of a duo in the NFL. Really good defensive front too. Chris Jones should definitely be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. Steve Spagnuolo somehow, despite whatever talent they have on the defensive side of the football, always find a way to get at least enough. They didn't invest a ton in their offensive weapons because of having Patrick Mahomes. They just kind of went out and got some like budget free agents, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster, and it obviously has worked for them to get to this point. You look at these two teams, how they're built and the success that they've had this season, getting here to the Super Bowl. And then you look at some of the teams, obviously, that were runners up. San Francisco, if they have a healthy quarterback, who knows? Maybe it would be them over Philadelphia. You look at the Bengals within the Steelers division. How far away do you feel the Pittsburgh Steelers are when you look at these top contending teams around the NFL?
I think the Steelers are a tackle, a linebacker, a corner, and about 10 points away. I think they need to get a tackle and improve the offensive line. I think they need to get a sure linebacker that you can rely on, not anything that we saw from Devin Bush the past 2 years. You need to get a lockdown linebacker. You also need to get a lockdown corner. That's why I think this is such an important position, potentially at pick 17 in this year's draft. And then I think you're about 10 points away. The Steelers are currently in 2022 averaged 18.1 points per game. And it seems like every one of these playoff games outside of that Kansas City and Cincinnati game, the winner is scoring 27 plus. I feel like you need to be able to score 27 plus at a whim in order to have a chance in these games. Because I don't think the defense is a problem. I think there's position groups or just single positions within those position groups that need changed or need improved. But I think the defense, as long as that defense is healthy, as long as TJ Watt and Minka are healthy, Cam Hayward, I think that defense is fine as it is. The offense in general, I think that, granted, it is a young offense. I think they need to get another tackle and improve on the offensive line. But I think they are about 10 points away from being seriously competitive in these playoffs, because if you run into a Buffalo, a Kansas City, a Cincinnati, a Jacksonville, all these teams, they can score 27 plus at a whim, and the Steelers have shown that they can't. So until you get to that point where you can consistently score 3 to 4 touchdowns a game plus a couple field goals, I'm not going to trust the Steelers in the postseason.
Yeah. I think that there's different ways to build teams, as we're seeing, even with these two teams, like they've scored the exact same amount of points this season, but they've done it in very different ways, and the rosters are very different. Because of what the Steelers, I feel like, pretty clearly want to do with the way that they've invested their picks. Now I think it's about Andy Weidl's influence in building within the trenches. If you're going to spend a first round pick on a running back, your offense's identity better be to run the football. So they got to try to win in the same way that the Philadelphia Eagles are winning, in my opinion. They got to win within the trenches. Now, you talked about the defensive line. You looked at the sack numbers, especially, once they got TJ back and what TJ Watt brings to the team. And it looks good right now. But the problem is Cam's getting up there in age. And, between Watt and Highsmith, assuming Highsmith is here for the long haul too, because you're going to have to give him a new contract. What do they have there going forward? I think that, again, like, we really liked the DeMarvin Leal pick. It's a shame he got hurt this year. Would have loved to have seen, like, he showed some splash when he was on the field this year. Would have loved to have seen how much more splash he could have provided if that injury didn't happen. But, Andy Weidl's influence to me within that front office, and Omar Khan kind of leaning on him because of the way that they've built that team in Philly, he had a huge part in what that Super Bowl roster, is it a Super winning roster? Yet to be seen, but this roster that's gotten to the Super Bowl looks like. So that is the team, if you're looking at the two teams that are playing in the Super Bowl, that I feel like the Steelers need to go towards because of what they currently have on the roster. They need to try to be the next Philadelphia Eagles.